Tammy.
Hi, Mala. So great to see you.
So great to see you, and I can see both of us have lovely hair today. So I'd love to hear about yourself, your journey, your inspiring ancestry, anything you feel comfortable sharing with everybody.
Yeah, sure. I might be a rare person here. I don't know. Anybody have 4 generations, Bay Area? Anybody else's great grandfather helped build the Golden Gate Bridge?
Isn't
I'm
that
like,
incredible, guys? Her great grandfather
no,
built the Golden Gate Bridge.
yeah, that's actually how my family got here. My one part of my family was in South Dakota during the Great Depression, and there was nothing you could do in farming, I guess. And my great grandfather actually saw an ad in a newspaper that said, if you have a wheelbarrow and you can get to San Francisco, you have a job. And so my great grandfather packed up his 9 sons. My grandfather was the youngest. And they had 2 vehicles. They just carried the wheelbarrow and themselves. And it took them months to get here because they couldn't afford to go very far without getting a job, usually something regarding agriculture, and then
Where
get
did
a
they
little more
come
fuel.
from?
South Dakota, but then originally they came from Western Europe. Yeah, but they had been
I
in the
don't
US a
know
long
if you
time.
guys are moved the way I am right now, because we think as immigrants, like I'm a first generation immigrant, and I think my life is so hard, and I took a student loan, I could barely afford it. And my, ancestry, none of the women were allowed to work, all these things that go on in your head. And then you listen to people, white people, and you think they are of privilege, and they aren't. They struggle just like us. And, it's just that they landed earlier, which means it was much harder, the struggle. And then I reevaluate thinking, what does underrepresented really mean? And is the world really unfair? I don't know anymore. Just imagine that, taking a wheelbarrow and coming all the way from South Dakota just to make a livelihood because you don't know how else. And you have 9 sons you need to feed. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, and actually, I didn't tell that story a lot. I think I kind of forgot it, but I knew my great grandfather helped build the Golden Gate Bridge. I didn't remember a lot of. I didn't remember the wheelbarrow. And then you know how on Zoom there's the Golden Gate Bridge background. I think it's so cool because it's like it's got the best lighting, and for me, it's a conversation starter because people usually ask, "Oh, you're from San Fran?" I'm like, "No, it's more than that, man. My great grandfather helped build that." But so I was telling my dad how I say that, and he goes, "Come here." Okay, my dad. You think I'm a storyteller? Those that know me, walk out into the backyard, do a little tour of the garden. He goes, "You see that?" And I'm thinking, yeah, all the plants and the weird things my mom planted things in since 1974 when we moved into that house. And he goes, "No, look closer." And there was this rusty, the wood was falling off wheelbarrow that's had plants planted in it by my mother ever since she got it when they bought that house. My grandparents gave it to her. And I just started crying because I have seen it for so many years, but never knew the
You
story.
never knew the story.
No, to me, it was just some raggedy thing that my mom planted stuff in. I never even really focused in and see that it was a wheelbarrow.
Wow.
So yeah,
I have like silver and gold jewelry and emeralds, and that's what I got in my heritage. Now, who's the underprivileged or the underrep, right? Where do you draw the line? Isn't that true for many
yeah,
of us Indian, especially Indian women? Even recently,
yeah,
my mother-in-law gave me rubies, like real rubies. Can you believe it? And she gets a wheelbarrow.
yeah. A pretty rusty one. Yeah, I think being here in the Bay for so long, but just to be really clear, I'm the very first in my family to go to college. All of my family have been blue collar workers. Very proud of that, actually. For a long time, those 8 great uncles that all lived in San Francisco, we could drive around the city and he would point at a building and one would be like, "I put that roof on," Another like, "I pulled the carpet through," and "I turned the light on, I was an electrician." And have a lot of pride about our beautiful Bay Area because of that. I know a lot of sweat equity went into help building it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And tell me more about that. What was it like to be a CS math major? Isn't that what you are? And
Math.
math major,
Yeah.
and but you primarily worked in tech all your life. What
Yeah.
has it been like for you in the 90s, 2000s, seeing the whole industry change?
Yeah.
No one can say it better than you. Yeah.
It's wild. So I was always really bizarrely good at math. And I mean, look at me. Who thinks I was good at math? I mean, you can, go back into the 80s when I was in high school, and I literally had my whole best friend group. There was like 8 of us women who ran together from the neighborhood. And I remember one day report cards came out and they go, "How come you're never grounded when report cards come out?" And I was like, "Why would I get grounded for straight A's?" And literally they looked at me and go, "What classes are you in? You're not in any of my classes. Are you in remedial classes?" And I was like, "No, I'm in AP classes," and so it was just like judgment that the blonde chick was not going to be the math person.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I went to UC Santa Barbara to play basketball and to study mathematics and economics, there was even moments there, Mala, where in my advanced mathematics class, I definitely stood out. Honestly, there were 2 women. There were about 17 to 20 people in that class. And back then, they used to write the names on an overhead projector, which is so a violation now of privacy, after every test.
Uh-huh.
So this professor would stand up there and talking to himself, basically. And he'd put the names up. Well, my maiden name, when written by a professor, looks like Song, but my maiden name is Sorg, S-O-R-G. And that day in particular, though, the professor said, "Will the top student stand up?" And I stood up, and the other 16 people went, and the guy sitting next to me literally said, "We thought you were either lost or you were the professional note taker," because at Santa Barbara, you could go to the Associated Students, I'm sure they could do it everywhere, and you could actually buy notes if you didn't attend. Oh. But the people who took them didn't know the subjects, so they were like phonetic. So if you bought them, you'd be like, "What is that word?" But then if you sounded it out, you're like, "Oh, okay, that's what they meant." So I was like, I remember putting my hands on my hips and standing up and saying, "Lost or the note taker? No, I'm the number 1 student in this class. And if you want to check out how my ball handling skills, come watch me play at the Thunderdome tonight." And I was kind of like, bye. But there's definitely, biases everywhere. And I think that everybody, most people will assume there's people that are excluded from it. But no.
But so tell us more about how you took those math skills and became this kick-ass sales leader.
Oh,
generating hundreds of millions of dollars in revenues for these companies, right? Including starting her own and taking it public. And
so math was like boring to me because it was so easy, but I loved how predictable it was, in the sense that I could take a really ridiculous problem and break it down into a series of easy to solve problems and get to the answer. Like, to me, that is it's actually the secret to life, is if we could do that. So when I only added the math degree just because I was already taking the classes for fun. And then when I graduated, gosh, everybody wanted a basketball playing math woman. It was kind of novel.
It's very logical, right?
Yeah,
all of you.
What is this? Yeah.
I need this one in my life, for sure.
So I decided I was going to get my doctorate in mathematics and applied to one of your alma maters, got in, came back because I'm from here, waiting to go to Cal. And literally a friend of a friend asked me to help set up the first office they were going to move to, 2 guys and a dog from their garage. I'm not making that up. Like, that sounds like a Silicon Valley show episode, right? Like, it was real. And I was like, okay, I graduated early, so I had, I don't know, like 7 or 8 months before my graduate program was to start. Like, yeah, sure, I'll go kick this thing around. Well, I got there, and it was actually in the Next space. Does anybody in here remember Next?
Mm-hmm, of course.
Who started Next? For those that didn't know what Next is.
Who could it be?
Yeah, exactly. So this was Steve Jobs' company between Apple. And it was so freaking cool.
You had Steve Jobs with Next?
No, we built, and we were independent software vendor. We were the second largest in the Next ecosystem.
Oh, I see.
So we built group scheduling and contact management before Salesforce existed, and we did it on Next, and it was super awesome environment. The first day I got there, having only programmed in VI, I only knew Fortran and Pascal.
That sounds like me at some point.
How embarrassing.
Not so distant past.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Then that's cool. So, and I got there and I was like, okay, I'm going to just check out this, what they built.
Yeah.
So the first night I just tore into their code and I tore into what they built in Next. It was all like visual programming.
Oh.
Even this is 1993. So I fell pretty in love with what I saw. And I didn't go home.
So Next was a visual programming language?
Oh, yeah. Well, it had that. It had like a visualization ability to program. It was true OO. It was actually multi-threaded. It was so ahead of its time. And what led me to sales, Mala, was that I was curious. The fact that I understood the platform, I understood why it mattered. I couldn't believe you couldn't schedule. Like I remember trying to get a room at the university for a group of us. It was like, you had to talk to like 17 people. I'm like, isn't there a system for that? I mean, so I ended up being the one who was willing to talk to people. So the two guys and the dog, the order of people in that company that were willing to interface with other humans was me, the dog, the one founder, and then the other founder. Like they literally were like, I do not want to talk to anyone. And back then you had to talk on the phone. There was even the internet. And what I found was this was my jam. If you understand something and you're passionate about it and you're just a dash of curious, oh my goodness, it's fun. It's like playing. I was getting to talk to so many companies and I was asking like, what are they, what kind of outcomes are they looking for? What would happen if they were successful? What would happen if they failed? To me, it was like being the 7-year-old girl who used to play company. Mm-hmm. And I was just loving it. So I had no formal training, but the fact that sales numbers started skyrocketing about 3 months into this little temp job, they showed me 3 slides. One that said how long Cal had been there, telling me it's not going away. Another one showing how long our little startup had been there, saying like, we're on to something. And the third was a number I didn't think I could spend in a year, which definitely know I can now. But at the time, so I deferred my doctoral program.
So it was a PhD in math?
Yeah.
At Berkeley?
At Berkeley.
Oh, gosh.
And it was 32 years ago. No, more. Oh my gosh, 33. I'm pretty sure they're not taking me back. But what was so awesome that sparked, because I mean, I'm just going to get a little open here about my jam. What I really wanted, so living where I grew up in East Side San Mateo, I don't know if anybody knows what Shoreview is, but again, this was the 80s. We literally had the Shoreview Crips. So like legit. And it was the most beautifully diverse neighborhood, but I was an extreme minority. And I'm this tall in 5th grade, so I stood out like insane, Mala. And it was kind of brutal. So my real goal was to get out of the neighborhood. I wanted to raise a family, and I wanted it to be somewhere safer, and I wanted it to be, I wanted to have the dream like my parents had, becoming homeowners, met in high school. They're celebrating 59 years next month.
Congrats.
Yeah. And so I wanted to have it all. I wanted to be the woman who could, hoop during the day, playing basketball, bring home the bacon. I didn't want to fry it up, though. I'll just be really clear. I'm not a cook. But I wanted to do all of that. And this job gave me that. No, I can't even believe what this afforded me, that I was so good at sales. But the really cool thing was, sales is not what you think. I don't know if anybody's ever read the book, What Great Salespeople Do, but I highly recommend it because it's a true research-based book. It's actually the guy who wrote Solution Selling and realized he wasn't even using that model. And it didn't work because 80% of the sales was done by 20% of the people through the research at that time. And this book was supposed to unlock, what about the other 80%? What if we got them up to speed to be like what they called the Eagles? But the reality is that was the most successful sales book at the time and training. The wonderful author lives in this massive house in Dana Point, and he admitted he didn't really use that. And then a young protege, Ben Zolden, just said, well, why don't we do research and see what do the real top salespeople do? And they went through and did the true analysis, and they found total coherence. And I'll say like the three things that summarize that I happen to already be doing, thinking I was the most totally against the grain, not cool, not in fashion, but shit, it worked. So I was doing it. And it was these three things. One, take off the mask and build real relationships. Real. And I'll tell you the key to that in a second. Number two, learn your product enough you can put it in your pocket and not lead with it. Be confident enough in what you're doing that you can actually be present. And what that actually means is you can actively listen. That is one of the hardest.
That's when you can do number
things.
one, which is build a connection with somebody.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
when you're not stressed out. Yeah.
And then the third key thing is talk about what you do through the power of story.
And she's clearly doing all three with us, right?
So stories show, words tell. Have you ever been in a conversation and someone's telling you a story and you're literally seeing the movie in your head, right? That is when you are locked in. And the beauty about story is story begets story. We've had stories before we had language as a species. And when we give a story, we get a story, and our mirror neurons fire. So it ended up being the fact that I did this just because it made sense to me. And that was the only way I could be in the sales role, because I thought sales was what my best friend's dad did on Stevens Creek at the Cadillac dealership. And he had like three jokes that he always used, and I loved him, but I always thought, no, that's not me. That's not how I roll. But sales afforded me like the best life so far, in that I got to achieve all of my dreams. Met my husband on my first business trip, imported him from Canada. We just last Friday celebrated 30 years.
Yay, congratulations.
Had 2 children, Jordan and Jack, and just launched them. They both graduated college. They're off the payroll. They're doing great. And I got to move to Cupertino. Kids went to St. Francis. Like, we did it. Husband was a stay-at-home dad for 24 years.
My husband's a stay-at-home dad for 24
my
years.
6'7" cowboy farming family, Canadian. He's amazing. But the ability to do that, and I think like these 3 magic things aren't just about selling, because you tell me something where we're not selling. We want to get our teams to kind of see the vision and go all in. Selling. You know, I mean, everything we do is selling.
Everything we do is selling. I agree. It's marketing and sales.
Yeah. And it shouldn't get such a bad rap, Mala, because it's great. But yeah, so I continued to be the one against the grain, and I was an individual contributor, worked on the precursor of Cursor, I call it, because we did similar, it was a rules-based code generation system back in the 90s, and we took it public. And there was this point of like, I got called on to become a leader. So then it became, I was a top rep. Every year I carried a bag. I got the watches, the trips, the cars, they were very generous when you're the top rep. I made more money than the CEO.
You get to go to club?
Oh, heck yeah. I didn't just go to club.
You made more money than the CEO.
I sure did. Every year they enjoyed telling me that.
Where was this?
Well, our company at that time was actually based in Oakland, but we were all Bay Area. Like,
all of these companies.
No, they had way more equity than me. Right. But, there was... So don't knock that sales role. And if you are a leader who has sales teams, I literally, once I became a CRO about 22 years ago, I said to my CEO partners at the time, I was like, I'm just gonna let you know, the day we have achieved my goal, we will be grinning from ear to ear, writing $1 million commission check. And they all looked at me like I was nuts. I go, because then you know you have hit the hockey stick, and you do not hesitate to pay that out. Because by the way, everybody else on the team and outside of the team is watching. If you're the company that made something like that happen, you have your pick of the top talent.
Amazing. So tell us about the what our founders can learn from you. When it comes to sales, you're just starting your first or your second company. You're trying to achieve product market fit, and we all know the first $1 million in sales is founder led, or maybe even more, right? And I think good founders actually can't get along with your head of sales, right? And that's usually a good sign. Honestly, they want to fire their VP
Yeah.
of sales because that guy's like trying to close deals very differently than what you are.
Yeah. I mean, I would say big thing is definitely what you said, founder led sale. You've got to figure it out. Nobody else. You're not ready to bring in sales team or even one until you've got taken the entire enterprise lap. And what I mean by that, this isn't your buddy said you can put the logo on the screen. This isn't even those first customers that are willing to give you some money. This is like someone rode that thing hard to the point where it hurt. That's when you're starting to get ready, and they get through the hurt because the benefit outweighs the investment, the elbow grease that they have to put in. Now you have a story. And if I highly recommend curating every story, even if you fail, oh, those are even better stories. And even if you have to mask who it is, you know, a top financial services company is just as powerful as naming the bank. And even if it's not closed yet, there's still a story in there, likely, about how they reflected on what your solution would do to impact them. And again, don't walk in and be like, my company saves, 20% of the cost and you get 4x of this. You can back those up probably, but why not just let that be the wallpaper? The story shows that. So you bring it alive. And when it comes to storytelling, one thing that's critical to understand is there has to be a challenge. If if you look at every type of story arc, there's always a challenge moment. And this is the other mistake that I think a lot of founders and just business leaders make, is they think that the shine is the attraction. It's not. It's actually the struggle. So it's when somebody can hear you tell the story in such a way that it's real, because if it didn't have struggle, the odds were it was not real. At some point, they struggled to deploy it, or they struggled to find the right people to bring it to life, or something. So a big part of it is that's why when I say take off the mask, that's like, get real, be open, be vulnerable. Anybody in this room think vulnerable is a scary word? Anybody not like vulnerable?
It's always scary to be vulnerable.
Right? I'm sure all of you, or if you haven't, check it out tonight. I've seen the Brené Brown epic tech talk in the brown shirt.
I must have watched that talk like 100 times.
Yeah. I mean, before she became super famous and everything, I was like already obsessed with the Brené Brown, because she did all the research at University of Houston to prove that vulnerability is the source of all connection. I don't know about you, but connection is my jam, and that is the best part of everything I do in all parts of my life. And if vulnerability is the only source of it, I eat that up for every.
Is that the only source of connection?
Yeah, her research shows that to be connected, deeply connected, you must be vulnerable. There must be vulnerability. And the beauty of vulnerability is, back to the mirror neurons, you get what you give. So the beauty is, I would teach my teams this simple concept that if you can take off the mask and go first, which means you could still have a whole room of people introducing themselves and everyone's playing it safe. No one's giving you real behind the mask view. You could be the 97th out of 98 people in that room to introduce yourself. You still get to go first in terms of taking off the mask and bringing it, and just watch everything shift.
So tell me how your idea has changed. Like, I think when I met you a couple of years ago, this was actually going to be a product, helping people sell through connection.
Yeah.
And through an app, right? And now you're working on Polymatic. What happened there? And tell us about Polymatic.
Yeah, so my career led me to, after I did what I call sort of like the early AI company, I got tapped to join this whole industry called cybersecurity. And back in 2003, this was not cool. Nobody cared. All my CIO contacts said, yeah, I mean, not really. It's not really a critical path, that security thing. I hear about it on occasion. So in 2003, I said no. I had some amazing VCs in the Valley that had invested in my prior company begging me to go to this spin out of Stanford, and had really deep roots with math because it was encryption. And so I said no for 9 months because it wasn't critical path, and that was a requirement for me to join anything. I had to be able to convince myself that the product, people couldn't live without it. That was just my rubric. So I finally, after a year, or 9 months, I end up doing a brainstorm with the head of marketing, and he just started talking about use cases, and then we started making up stories. Okay, so what if we did this with this literally algorithm? And then all of a sudden it clicked. I was like, at that time, my youngest was not quite 1 and my daughter was 3. And I said, my children are going to grow up with no identity. There is going to be so much theft. I believed that at the time, everyone was worried about things that related to financial data. But even at that time, I was like, well, what about social security numbers? You can't even replace those. If they start going after that, they can get the credit card.
Right.
So I jumped in and helped pioneer the whole data-centric encryption and tokenization movement. We built format preserving encryption that's now a mode of AES that's embedded in probably everything that you're doing today. And so cyber became my jam. I got to bring in my math with the encryption, and I like doing things early. I like being disruptive. So fun. And so that just embedded in me. And being in cyber for, I guess now 23 years, there was a point where I was like, why is everybody talking about identifying where the issues are and trying to keep them out? The reality is the bad actor has so much more motivation than we do. And I equate it to, based on a lot of the cases that I ended up, kind of seeing and sort of being a part of with major breaches, was that the bad actor was doing this to survive. Like Albert Gonzalez, who was in charge, who was responsible.
The bad actor who's stealing data is doing it to survive.
Yes, because there was. So I don't know if any of you remember the case of Heartland Payment Systems. It was the largest credit card breach at the time, 2008, 2009, and it was actually started. The ringleader was in jail. He had issues, but then he was an ethical hacker, and then he went back to the other side, and he was bragging about how he owned, that was his language, Heartland Payment Systems in jail. And then someone kind of said, you might want to, there might be something he's saying there. And it did turn out that there was this massive breach, and of course they didn't know it. But so data security, I was like, wait, we need to be either expecting they were in stealing our data, they are in stealing our data, or they will be in stealing our data. So I'm obsessed with data-centric protection. Like, that was my thing. And then as I decided I was going to, so 5 of my companies had an outcome. We sold 4, and 1 was an IPO. And my last one,
So
I
5
sold.
of her startups had an outcome, which basically means she got money out of it, a ton of money, and 4 of them
Oh,
she
about a
sold, and 1
ton,
of them went IPO.
they were venture backed, so
They were all
not a
venture
ton,
backed.
but I got them. I was able to stay in
She's such an
Cupertino.
outlier, right?
No.
Isn't this crazy?
So then
Amazing.
it ended up being that my last one we sold and we landed it in February of 2024, and I had a year I had to stay and land and integrate it. And 1 year and a day when I was able to leave, I said, I'm writing the book, Mala. I'm joining Progressive. I'm going to become a VC, and I'm going to just do fractional
She's one
work.
of our biggest LPs in our fund.
I'm just doing fractional work. I'm kind of done.
Yeah, you're kind of done.
I'm not done, but done. It's called a portfolio career. Look it up. It's a thing. I was all about it. And then I just got this feeling with AI, this was a moment. People need to know these secrets. And that with agentic AI, I was really convinced. I was hearing about all these coaching apps. And I was like, garbage in, garbage out. If you're going to go coach based on these books, you're going to just get into a very bad place. So I was committed to that. There might be a video I did where I said
have
what
a video
I was
of
doing.
her pitching her last idea that didn't.
I was like, this is what I'm going to
That
do.
wasn't. But I think you'll have to go back to that. So,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Someday,
I think there's a need for
in my
it.
spare time, I'll have my agent write it. My agent will talk to your agent. But the thing that really fired me up is a friend of a friend said, hey, there's these 2 guys and they say these really weird words like you do. I go, what? What weird words do I say? Like, oh my gosh, if you could only stop talking about encryption. Like, really? I say encryption a lot? They're like, yeah. Well, apparently they did too. So I met these other weird people, and it turned out a lunch turned into 7 hours. Couldn't stop talking to these guys because what they were talking about just rocked my soul. And the only way I can describe it is I spent 5 months, no pay, not even officially in this thing with them. I couldn't not do this. And it's called Polymatic. It was already named, but I love it because it has math in it. It's so cool. I love it. And I want to be a polymath, right? Being a polymath means you can play basketball and run a company and raise a kid and have a relationship for 32 years. But so Polymathic grabbed me because I understand the power of data and I understand the risk of data. And I recognize, having done early AI, that these agents, they are going to take action on our behalf. They better be 1, safe, 2, the data better be permissioned, and 3, they better be governed. Because we're at a stage where AI is it's like raising a kid, Mala. It's they're adolescents at best. We better be parenting these agents. And if they're just like I wouldn't let my kids just, completely run wild and, do whatever and have no guidance, we need to be able to govern them. And the moat that is going to matter the most, and we already see it, is the context. So the ability to have permissioned, secure, safe context is something I'm so committed to, so that these agents know us. So so we're building the context layer for agentic AI to be permissioned so that people walk in with their own data. I was in Davos this year, and Davos and South by Southwest, that I would say, other than geopolitical unrest and the fact that everything was AI, the next biggest topic was data sovereignty. People know how much money companies have been making off of our data. We're going to need to have control of that. So these agents work for us. They know us. So I'm all about flipping the model and making sure that agentic AI enables human flourishing.
So the challenge I find when I'm evaluating companies that are building for agents is that agents are not here yet, right? And so you're kind of building for a future, and it's scary for me as an investor because I don't know if it's going to be a fulfilled world where all these agents are going to talk to each other, right? So how are
Yeah.
you mitigating that? Because she successfully fundraised, of course, right? A few $1 million in order to be able to pull
Yeah.
off this company. How did you do that?
Well, I mean, I think people are recognizing that the opportunity is so big and that it has to be done well. So I talk a lot about my the fun I had raising 2 children during the attention economy. We were the school, being where I raised my kids in Cupertino. They got their books on iPads earlier than anybody else. They took all the books away, and these kids, you couldn't take technology from them. They needed it for school. And as much as I would try to use my cybersecurity skills to lock that stuff down, they were always smarter than me in getting around it. So it was brutal watching them get so inundated in social media, words that they use that are always challenging, like everybody's in Tahoe. Have you heard that one? Mom,
Of course, yeah.
everybody.
I know.
I'm like, I'm sitting right here.
That's
That's
like
a lie. Everybody's not there.
self-abuse, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
everyone is successful but me,
Yeah.
everyone is...
Everybody, everybody has this. Everybody looks this way, you know? And it was pretty terrifying. So I know that agentic AI is going to happen. That's my belief. But as it's part of the reason it's not is because of context. Like the reason
We don't trust it, yeah.
you can't trust it.
But
Look
how do you
around.
generate revenues today?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a ton of activity around attempt at agents. So one of the first wedges that we're releasing as part of our infrastructure and the protocols is basically a simulator that not only tells you where the blind spots are around security and like data movement, but what is this actually doing? Because the lack of governance, who in this room grabbed OpenClaw right when it came out? I hope you were safe, right? Because when I ran it through my
I hope
simulator,
you set up a container and
Yeah.
like a Docker container
Right?
and then did that. No?
because it was like hundreds of thousands of people right away.
I know.
And there were so many
Oh, that
problems.
was crazy.
And when I ran it through my simulator and I gave it a general task if I wanted it to sell the couch from the living room that we were replacing. The thing that's beyond like security, but this is about governance, is this thing, first of all, it sold I told it to not sell it for less than $300. It sold the couch multiple times. It sold it for $30. It sold it for $300 and it sold it for like $2,500. And then my favorite part is it leaked my address.
Oh gosh.
So now what am I going to have? You know, like 27 just out of college people wanted my,
But
The
who would
couch?
you sell Polymatic to solve this problem?
well, that's the thing. I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to give them the simulator. So they're going to associate.
Oh, I see.
They're going to associate first, like how I can test simulate what this agent's actually going to do
Love it.
Get
you
the
guys, isn't
feedback.
that amazing?
on how to lock it down. Then I'm going to give everybody free access to what I call a knowledge vault, because a lot of people care about data sovereignty. So they can start gathering their data now in one place. And what my product does is it converts that data into a safe derivative inside a trusted execution environment so that I never see nor store the data in my platform, which is critical because you should trust no one. So it's a trustless environment, and it enables people to walk in with their own data so that those agents serve them. Because if the agent knows you, these things are going to be successful. And all it takes is, you know, you and I talking about that travel agent that nailed it and brought us on our girls trip that was so amazing. And my agent talked to your agent and it got it right.
Yeah.
You know, based on I drink, you don't drink, you know, all the differences and it built the most amazing trip. And you and I are bragging about how never could I ever build it that way. That is what is going to make
Love
this stuff
it.
take
Love
off.
it. I think all of you are sold. My challenge is I can't invest in her. You see why I want to change my fund thesis for fund two. She's not at a YC StartX in Skydeck. I can't invest in it. It's crazy. And I can't put my personal check because I'm audited the entire time now that I'm a venture capitalist. So
Yeah.
anyway, so she's open if you want to invest.
recommend her to YC and then
You think they'll take her?
why not?
We should try, right? But then you know what? They'll take 7% of a company for $250,000. Tammy will say, screw you.
Yeah. We just raised.
She doesn't need an accelerator. I was trying to
No.
get her into my accelerator, and I was like, gosh, I can learn a few things from her.
No. Yeah, we set out to raise an angel fund, an angel round. Our goal was 500,000, and we just exceeded 2.2 million in angel, and just got a verbal on a $2 million deal for
Congratulations.
our first big deal, first customer.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll be part strategic investment, part customer, but yeah, we're going to start working on our institutional round soon. But what I love in these 32 years of being in tech, the tables are turning. Now I'm like, how can I do this without, I want less money, but at the same time, given this is infrastructure and protocols, it's not like I'm just building an agent, right? But I love the idea of, because like when I think about my company, like my org chart, there's agents and people on my org chart. And there is a human managing every department that has agents and humans. That's a requirement. But that we treat the AI as part of the team, part of a team that has to be parented and managed closely, but that it's there. And I'm just playing company, Mala. It's really fun.
Fantastic. She's just playing company like basketball. Best advice you've received as a CEO? This is rapid fire.
Okay. Best advice. I shouldn't swear. Just do it. Like, have a bias towards action. Clean it up later.
A company you admire for execution?
I don't know why it comes to mind. Maybe I'm just going old school and I really, 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 really love basketball. But Nike, because I just do it, fires me up. That they have the whole parking garage and the whole wing that's named after Serena Williams, and the whole way that Michael Jordan got, I'm sure you guys saw Air Jordan, the movie Air. Like, just, I love that. And my daughter is named Jordan for a reason.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
And if you were not building companies, what would you be doing?
I would be very poorly singing.
and very richly playing basketball.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I wanted to be Pep Benatar when I was a kid, not just a singer. I wanted to be Pep Benatar, and I might torture my family a lot, and I might be tone deaf. So we're lucky something else worked out.
Yeah. Big round of applause for Tammy. Now you all know why she's one of my most favorite people. Thank you, Tammy.